I'm Brian, and this is Vinyl Paints. I've had this conversation a dozen times. There aren't a lot of choices when it comes to animation paint. Today we'll be comparing two of the last ones left in a side-by-side time-lapse comparison. But first, let's get a little housekeeping out of the way. What's the difference between animation paint and other paints? This can get real technical, but to simplify it, most animation paints are made with some sort of plastic, usually vinyl, as to give the paint some elasticity as well as the ability to bond better to cell sheets, avoid flaking and cracking. Is glass painting the same as cell painting? Yeah, in a way it is, but they're also very different. And it wasn't until I got further along that I realized there are some major differences that become more important as you progress. But if you ever want to stack cells or animate something, there is a difference. What you're seeing here are some videos from an amazing glass painter called O Creations. You should check them out on Instagram for more. But I really wanted to showcase the difference between cell painting and glass painting. When you see the backside, you'll notice there's a bit of texture. This is something cell painters are constantly fighting against. It creates shadows and reflections when you stack multiple cells on top of each other, and as a cell painter, our goal is to get that as smooth and flat as possible. This is unique to cell painting, and one of the biggest differences between cell painting and glass painting, which is why a good vinyl paint is important. So what do the pros use? Nothing. There's not many of them left, and the ones that are left are using leftover supplies. All my research has indicated that cell vinyl paints is the gold standard in animation, and toy anime paint being its anime counterpart. Unfortunately, both paints are no longer being manufactured, and I've been unable to find them, so I don't have a baseline. I can only compare these paints to one another. So with the major companies all closed, what are we left with? I found 3 companies that deal with animation paint. Well, 2.5. Why 0.5? I found this Japanese manufacturer, Lopo Gazai or Ropo Art Supply. I'm using Translate, so I don't know for sure. And honestly, I'm really excited about their paints, but I can't seem to get a response from them. At first I thought it was because I don't speak Japanese and we might be having a communication issue, but I asked my cousin, who is a translator, to reach out on my behalf, and after weeks, nothing. He says this is very unusual for a Japanese business not to respond. I've decided to go ahead as of today to place an order, but I have no idea what to expect, and part of me is expecting to just get the order cancelled and the money refunded. So that leaves us with 2 options: UK-based Chromacolour and California-based Toon Tones. I wasn't able to find any reviews on these paints, so feel free to like and share so that other people can find these and maybe help them out in this process. Before we go any further, this is not sponsored in any way. This is just my opinion and experience using these paints. I didn't see anything out there explaining these, so I bought both because I really did not know which one I was going to enjoy. And all paints have been mixed to a rough 5:1 ratio. I also won't dangle over your head which paint to buy, because you will probably need both. In fact, they both have different strengths, so if you're expecting a hot take, sorry to disappoint. So let's talk a little bit about Chromacolour. This is what they say. Chromacolour animation paint is extremely pigment rich and also dries with a matte, flat finish. These properties mean the coverage is achieved with just one coat, as well as ensuring when the paint is dry, the cell remains nice and flat. The matte finish also means that you won't get any unwanted reflections when digitizing. When using our cell paint, you will enjoy the way it flows beautifully onto our animation cell to produce wonderful results. So, is any of that true? Yeah, honestly, it's a pretty solid product. I do find you usually need to use multiple coats on lighter colors. I think this is going to be near impossible to sync up with the video that you're seeing, but if you notice the whites on General Kenobi when I did them, I had to give it a few passes. Where Chromacolour really excels is in the final drying stages. It really does dry flat. Some of my earlier cell paintings were closer to glass paintings. I've been able to iron them out, pun intended, by diluting the paint. But yeah, sometimes it wouldn't dry as flat as I'd like it. I'm an avid cell collector, and the finish on this paint comes across as professional. And it looks almost identical to some of the other cells in my collection. Because it dries so flat and smooth, Chromacolour really excels if you're looking to stack cells or put multiple cells on top of each other. My camera settings are not ideal for capturing color, and I realize that I'm struggling to find a way of explaining the difference between the 2 paints because they do look similar on camera. So the word I came up with is vivid. Chromacolours are very vivid, as opposed to Toon Tones, which are very rich. Alright, I'm about to go into full rant mode right now, but just stay with me. I mix colors all the time, but I'm not a huge fan of it when it comes to cell painting. There's lots of reasons why, but the main reasons are simple. I tend to mix conservatively, meaning not enough. And I often run out, and then I end up having to patch in different colors and it never perfectly matches, and then I have to make another batch and it doesn't really exactly match the next one, and you get mismatched colors. Also, mixing colors can yield unexpected results. To a certain extent, mixing is simple. 1 + 2 = 3. The problem is, when mixing these paints, you don't always know what the base pigment of paint is. So sometimes you're mixing a 1 + 2 and you're expecting 3, but sometimes it's actually a 2 and a 3 and you're getting a 5, or a 2 and a 2 and you're getting a 4. And you can end up with these results that were unexpected. So why am I ranting about mixing paints? 1, it's kind of unavoidable because of the lack of color choice. And 2, Chromacolour does not perform as well as the other paint when it comes to mixing. Can it be done? Yes, but it always has this feeling that it's been sitting too long and it's begun to separating, regardless of how it's just been mixed. I did my best to make this an equal comparison. I ordered the starter kit from Chromacolour and it didn't come with a brown. So I'm not going to judge the color of the brown, but I will note that I had to double up on the brown, which meant I had to use a lot more paint than I wanted, which meant I had to mix more than I wanted, and I just finished my mixing rant, so we're just going to move on. This wouldn't be a compelling YouTube video if I didn't talk about heartbreak. Cell painting is an amazing art form, but every once in a while you have your heart broken and you're reminded that this is a disappearing art form. Chromacolour mentioned on their site that they once produced 2,000 different colors. Unfortunately, this number has dwindled to 37. I can only hope that eventually they have reason to create more colors, because honestly, they're kind of amazing. So after all that sadness, let's try to bring us up again and talk about Toon Tones. Toon Tones is a high-quality, smooth-flowing, quick-drying vinyl acrylic for all artists, including animators, craft painters, designers, illustrators, and hobbyists. Toon Tones is waterproof when dried and will not crack, chip, or flake. Use on acetate, animation cells. Honestly, they could have used someone else to write this. They did not do themselves justice. I don't really know what they mean by waterproof. I can't verify their claims on waterproof. In fact, I feel like there was a few times where I used water to clean some smudges and clean off large chunks. With that said, they are underselling themselves here, as I find they make a great product. I've been using Toon Tones longer than I've been using Chromacolour, so I feel like I came up with these paints, and really, they're my standard in terms of how I expect a cell paint to perform. Toon Tones has its own distinct characteristics, its own unique strengths and weaknesses. I find Toon Tones to be generally a thicker paint. It typically needs less coats for painting, and you can usually get away with 1 or 2 plus touch-ups, but it does not dry as smooth as I would like. You really have to pay attention to the mix ratio as it varies from paint to paint. And it is very easy to get texturing on the back, which is not ideal for stacking. One of the areas I feel Toon Tones performs better than Chromacolour is in mixing. That's not to say it's not without its problems, but overall I find it easier to mix colors with this paint. If I have the option, I wouldn't mix. Unfortunately, with such a limited selection, it's going to happen. Overall, dark colors did require less work and coats. This could save you time, but you have to get the mix ratio right. It is very easy to start getting texturing on the back. I have almost purchased 30 different Toon Tone colors, and overall I'm very happy with my purchase. But I have gotten 2 duds, light brown and pink. I'm not sure if it's just a bad batch, but I once spent 10 minutes mixing the light brown and it didn't help. It's almost as if it had permanently separated into clumps. You can watch my Nightcrawler video if you want to see more, but overall I don't think that's a reflection on the paint as a whole, just a warning. I don't know if it's by coincidence or direct competition, but they offer 36 colors, and the white and black are offered in small and large bottles, which is nice. But either way, with only 36 colors, you are going to be mixing. This might be a personal thing, but I also really dislike the spout system on the bottle. It clogs all the time, and because it's vinyl paint, it creates these plastic log clogs that can be a real pain to clear out. Wow, that felt like an exposition dump. Hopefully you're still with me. So let's talk a little bit about which one's right for you. You can't ignore price. I'm going to do this in US currency because it makes no sense to convert this into a third currency. Chromacolour sells for about $12.75 US, for 100 milliliters or 3.4 ounces. Toon Tones are currently on sale for $9.99, $10, for 4 ounces or 118 milliliters. But that's only part of the price. Shipping, customs, brokerage fees are the real expenses. The last time I ordered, it almost cost the same as my order. And that's why I tend to be very conservative with putting paint on my palette. Both these products are good, so if you can order or get one without import charges, then I would seriously consider that brand. Don't forget, you're probably going to be spending $1 to $2 per cell sheet. If you are looking to make an animation or do a multi-layer stacked cell, I think you should consider Chromacolour. It's by far the smoother of the two, it's easier to work with when dealing with multiple layers, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by the vivid colors either. If you're doing a one-off cell painting or looking to repair a cell from your collection, which I don't recommend, in fact, I probably shouldn't have even said that, do not try and repair your cells. I think you have a better chance of getting the color and enjoying the flexibility of Toon Tones. But even though they offer similar colors, they're not the same, and you might want to consider using a mix of Chromacolour and Toon Tones to complement your piece. As I said over and over, if you don't need to mix colors, don't. I'll be using them both equally. I've been working on this color chart, you've probably seen me working on it during other videos, and hopefully it'll let me have the best of both worlds. After all, why choose between chocolate and vanilla when you can have cheesecake? This is a quick clip to show you the texture that the paint creates. When it dries, it becomes vinyl. It has a bit of a stretch to it, and if you flip over your cell and feel the texture, you'll feel like you're running your hand across a smooth plastic. This is probably one of the most intense videos I've ever made comparing the two. Feel free to leave a share and a like, it helps a lot. We've been so busy with paint talk that we really haven't talked about our friend General Kenobi. In case you're wondering why I didn't paint his lightsaber, sometimes I like to paint with light. Thanks for watching, I'm Brian, and this is Vinyl Paints.